Hello and welcome to Bored and Confused, where I review shows based on two criteria. One, was I bored? Two, was I confused? Today's show is Beetlejuice, the musical, the musical, the musical. Now, before I jump into this, please take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe. Help me grow this channel. Please comment below if you've seen these shows or you're thinking about seeing these shows. Let me know what you think of my thoughts, what you thought of the show. I like to start a discussion to hear what everybody else is feeling about the shows they're seeing and the shows they want to see. All right, let's get into Beetlejuice. My history with this, I have seen the movie many times. I really love the movie. I also saw the musical when it premiered on Broadway before the pandemic. And it had a history of it opened, then the pandemic closed it, then it came back, then it went on tour, and then now it has come back yet again. And my feeling when I first saw the musical was I really enjoyed the performances. There were some really great comedic actors in it. It was McClure, Kerry Butler, Alex Brightman as Beetlejuice, Leslie Kritzer, who she's so funny, she's so good, Jill Abramowitz. And Sophia Ann Caruso was just 17 years old and she was playing Lydia, and she was great in that role as well. And I remember being really impressed by the cast, being really impressed by the cleverness of the lyrics, but feeling the second act just went off the rails, and that it also tried to get really sentimental, and I just think it didn't earn that sentiment. So, going back, I was curious to see if I would have the same experience with Beetlejuice that I did the first time. So this is the tour of Beetlejuice that is returning to Broadway. It's the same director as the original Broadway production, Alex Timbers, and it did not make its Broadway investment back, but then it went on tour and it did really well on tour and made all the money back. So now they're like, we got money to burn, let's come back to Broadway for Halloween. There's an empty, huge Palace Theater, one of the biggest theaters on Broadway. We're gonna set up camp there and see if we can make a little more money off of this old workhorse. This production does feel like a touring production for many reasons. The set feels a little scaled down. Also, the casting is a little different. Leslie Kritzer used to play two roles because she's a big name. They've changed that, so now the Miss Argentina, who has a big number in the second act, is someone from the ensemble, does that now. And it doesn't have the big Broadway names that the original production did. And they've also changed some other elements that were fine when you have a sit-down production, and you have to change some other elements that allow it to tour a little easier. I also had a feeling, looking around me, there was a lot of parents with young children in the audience, and there were a lot of teenagers in the audience. I understand that a lot of the songs from Beetlejuice have become popular on TikTok, so that's bringing in a younger crowd to see this show. And I kind of feel like the show is maybe leaning in and geared towards this younger audience. So what is Beetlejuice about? Well, it's about this couple, Adam and Barbara Maitland, who live in this Victorian house, and they are a little bit stuck in their lives. They're a little afraid about moving forward with a family, and so they're really focusing on their hobbies, making pottery, making furniture. Unfortunately, they die, and Beetlejuice, who is this demon, has been anxiously waiting for them to die because he wants to convince them to get a living person to say his name 3 times so that he can escape his prison. This is the musical plot. It's different than the movie plot. The movie plot to me was very clear. The musical plot, not as clear, and we'll get into that. So it's basically about the demon named Beetlejuice who just wants to have more power. Look at it this way. It's kind of like politics. He wants to be released from the prison he's in, and he just wants to be given free rein to do whatever he wants. And he's going to use this dead couple and this new family that has moved into the dead couple's house to achieve his aims. That's accurate. So the setup is pretty much the same as the movie, but then it kind of goes in a different direction. There's some very important rules that if you are familiar with the movie, you might get a little confused by the musical, because the first rule they changed is that a living person has to say Beetlejuice's name 3 times for him to appear. and not a dead person, which is different than the movie. The other change is that in the movie, by saying his name 3 times, it also put him back. It like got rid of him and put him back in his little jail. But that is not in the musical. Basically, once he's set free, it's just like he's free and you have to deal with him. Let's talk about positive things. The production design for this show is great. It's scaled down a little bit from what I remember from the original Broadway production, but is still fantastic. You've got this cool house. It's got projections on it. So the house starts with the Maitlands, kind of homey gingham and homey fabrics and stuff. And then we go into the Lydia's family takes it over and it becomes very modern, very gray and stark. And then when Beetlejuice takes it over, it becomes a Tim Burton's fantasy. The costumes are great. We've got all of those images from the movie. We've got the white and black striped suits. We've got the skeletons. We've got the shrimp that eats people's faces. We've got a dancing stuffed pig. It's really visually a lot of fun. The costumes are great. And what else is great? The lighting is great. The choreography by Connor Gallagher is great. Let me give credit where credit's due. David Coren did the set design. William Ivy Long did the costumes. And Kenneth Posner did the lighting. The performances, I feel like the performances are all very strong. These are all really good vocalists, really good performers. Justin Collette is really channeling Alex Brightman's performance, which I think is fine. If you're going to steal from the best. He has a lot of manic energy. I think he's great. He sounds good. My only, I don't want to say complaint, but I saw such great comedic actors do this the first time I saw it that the show was not as funny with these actors, very talented, but we're talking Leslie Kritzer, Kerry Butler, Rob McClure, Jill Abramowitz. I mean, very, very funny performers. So I didn't feel these performers very good actors, but I think many of them are making their Broadway debut. And so this just doesn't have the same caliber that it did when it opened. Another positive thing about this show, it is high energy from start to finish. So I could see how young people would really just get on the ride and just be like, this is fun, this is ridiculous. All right, so negatives. This is a huge one, guys. The sound design was terrible. I was sitting in the second row of the mezzanine, the best seat, in my opinion, in a theater to watch a show. And the opening song starts with Lydia singing this ballad. A lot of this music by Eddie Perfect is written in kind of a pop genre. And the actor playing, this role is split between 2 people, and I saw a matinee and I saw Madison Mosley as Lydia. And this is another difference. When I originally saw it, it was played by a short 17-year-old girl. So she was really believable as like a 15-year-old teenager. Now we have an adult. I believe Madison is 22 years old. And so you're aware, it's an adult playing a child. She does a great job, but it's different. So we don't really I never really believed that she was 15, but that's just me. So Madison Mosley, bless her heart, comes out and is singing this ballad at the beginning, a sad ballad. I understood maybe 10% of the lyrics. I could not understand her. And I don't want to put the blame on the actors. I always blame the director, the music director, the composer, and the sound designer. Those 4 people need to work together to make sure that we can understand what's being sung. I couldn't understand hardly any of it. So then Beetlejuice arrives, and we do this really fast, up-tempo pattern number, and he's singing this rough Beetlejuice voice. Caught maybe 30% of what he's saying. This, again, the sound design. So it wasn't just Madison, wasn't just Justin. I could not understand the lyrics. And I remember the first time I saw this, I thought a lot of the lyrics were really funny and clever. So this whole show was, as far as the confusing goes, very confusing because I just can't understand what they're saying. And that alone makes me be like, don't see this show unless you don't care. Fix it. All right. So in the movie, Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice is only in like 17 minutes of the 90-minute movie. He's not there much, but he makes a very lasting impression. Now, they've done something very smart with the musical. I mean, the show is about Beetlejuice, so he needs to be in more of it. They've made him the narrator. So the show starts with him speaking to the audience. And we're kind of on his journey. He becomes the main character. He's the one with the real I want. He wants someone to say his name 3 times so he can be set loose. And so I think that's smart. So we get a lot more of this character. But what I find a little confusing is that his plan, he knows for some reason that this couple is about to die. So he's waiting for them to die. And then when they do, he wants to convince them to haunt the family that moves into their house to then make one of the living people in the house say his name 3 times. I know, it's convoluted. But then he quickly discovers that they're not good at being ghosts. And in fact, this family that moves in, they can't see dead Adam and dead Barbara. So it doesn't make sense how they're going to convince someone to say Beetlejuice's name if they can't even be seen, right? But then we've got Lydia, who is really goth and depressed about her mother's death. And she can see the dead Maitlands because she kind of lives in the world of the macabre. But the Maitlands don't want to make her say Beetlejuice. So then Beetlejuice, he realizes that Lydia can see him as well. So then he tries to focus on getting Lydia to say Beetlejuice 3 times. So what bothers me about this is you set us up with Beetlejuice's goal, and then he kind of goes, he still wants the same thing, but his way of getting it just shifts. And for me, it seems like the book writing is not good for this show. It's so arbitrary. And then once Beetlejuice is let loose and we go into the second act and they have to figure out what to do with him, they just keep making up rules. All of a sudden, like there's rules about, this book, but only the dead people can open this book. But Beetlejuice can open the book, and then once the book is open, then a living person can read from it. Living people can go into the netherworld, but if they do, then they have to die because there's this woman named Juno who is like in charge of that. So then it's so confusing. And then in the second act, these ghosts that only Lydia could see, now the rest of the family can see. There's an exorcism that Lydia gets tricked into doing by Beetlejuice, but then Beetlejuice makes it stop if she agrees to marry him, but then she runs into the netherworld, but then she changes her mind and comes back, and then she decides that she's going to trick Beetlejuice by marrying him, and then he'll become living, even though I don't understand the difference between his livingness when he's married and the livingness of him just being there already. I feel like in the movie, him getting married made it so that people couldn't say his name 3 times and send him back. But that doesn't seem to be here. At least I didn't think it was. Although there's one moment in the movie where Gina Davis is about to say his name and he throws a zipper on her mouth and she unzips it and she starts saying it again and he throws steel with like bolts in it. And that happens to Adam in the show. He's about to say something and Beetlejuice goes, and he goes, and he's got the bolts. But I didn't understand why he was bolting his mouth because we'd never established this idea that saying his name 3 times could send him back, which is why Lydia doesn't just say his name 3 times because she has plenty of opportunities. So yeah, if you've seen Beetlejuice and it makes sense to you, please in the most succinctly way possible in a comment explain to me the plot of this show. All right, that was a long ramble trying to understand the show. Let's get on to other things. Another issue I have with the show is the tone. You know, originally when the show came onto Broadway, I thought maybe it was for the general New York theater audience, but I think as the show has been on tour, they've discovered that it's really for teenagers. But I feel like they're also marketing it for kids, which is just does not seem like it's for kids. I mean, there's so much crude humor in this show. Justin Collette as Beetlejuice, in that opening number, he does a line of coke. He's making sexual jokes. He talks about boners. When he meets Barbara and Adam, he turns into Rocky Horror all of a sudden. He's trying to seduce Barbara, then he's trying to seduce Adam. And this was actually a through line that I do not remember from the original Broadway production. There's this whole like frat boy humor of 2 straight guys acting gay. And it's a constant thing of Beetlejuice hitting on Adam and then Adam kind of reciprocating it. They kiss more than I think anyone in this show. And I don't know, I don't find it funny, but I think the teenagers in the row behind me were really loving it. I also feel like there's songs in this show that feel like we need a song here just because it's a musical. One that really stuck out to me, and I tell you the name of it except they don't list the songs or the scenes in the program. This is a new trend that I don't understand. You're going to put the actors in there. Why don't you put the lists of the songs in there? Am I alone in this? It's so annoying. I go, oh, what was that song? No song. Oh, what was that scene? I don't know. I don't know. I guess I don't know. Can anybody understand the reason for not putting scenes and songs into the playbill? What is the point? So anyhow, there's a song between Delia, who is going to become the stepmom of Lydia. She's been hired as a kind of a child psychologist to help Lydia through her trauma of losing her mother, but she's dad, but she's kind of a gold digger. Anyhow, she wants Delia to wear this yellow dress for this function. They're going to have a bunch of guests. They made a model home out of this Victorian house, and they want to have like model homes around, and they're bringing investors over, and she wants Lydia to wear this yellow dress. But then she launches into this whole song, of which I can't remember the name, and I can't remember any of the lyrics, which I guess the subtext is, I would like you to wear a yellow dress. But she breaks out into a song, and usually songs come out of emotion and wanting something and trying to convince somebody something. But it just felt like they were singing about child psychology. I don't even remember. So there was a few songs in the show where you're just like, why are we singing now? So unless the song's really funny or really dramatic, I get a little bored with it. Another moment in the second act that just doesn't work for me is Lydia, despite being a living person, she's able to go into the netherworld when they draw a door and use the book and it opens up. And she runs into the netherworld. Her father follows her, again, making up new rules. She runs, like there's receiving people, and then they realize she's alive, and then they're like, you can't be here, and they chase her. She walks through like a metal detector that detects that she's alive. And she's running because she wants to find her mother. But then she runs for a little bit, and then she's like, I don't feel like finding mom anymore. And then her dad catches up to her, and he has a moment where she's like, you never talk about mom. And she's like, well, I don't because it hurts too much. And she's like, oh, I know. And then they hug, and they have this really nice moment. But it falls on deaf ears for me because the role of the father is so small in the show. He speaks maybe one or two lines to Lydia in these scenes that are just, he never has a moment with her. So it's too little too late, and it's unearned in this big, ridiculous, loud show to all of a sudden have a moment where as an audience you want us to like feel something. No, you didn't earn it. Let's talk about Otho, the character of Otho. There he is. Priest, mover, census taker, Otho. What is the point of Otho? Delia talks about him constantly throughout the show, that she is this guru. She says, Otho says this. Then he finally shows up, and he does nothing. He brings in a box that's supposed to like suck out the spirits, but he's a fake, so it doesn't do anything. He has no purpose. In the movie, he finds the Book of the Dead, and he tries to do an exorcism. They get the clothes of Adam and Barbara, and he brings their bodies back and does this exorcism, and he puts them in great pain. And that forces Lydia to call Beetlejuice, say his name 3 times, to stop this. But in this version, Lydia does the exorcism. So Otho has no purpose in being there. I just feel bad for the actor who gets cast in this role, because it's like, they got to be going, what am I doing? My role is pointless. So, was I bored? Was I confused? Yes, I get bored with the songs like Lydia and Adelia's duet. I also just get bored with, the show has a lot of energy, but it's so constant, and there's not a narrative that I'm really invested in. I get bored because I just get tired of the constant craziness that's going on. And Alex Timbers does a good job at really keeping it visually interesting and moving people in and out. But if I don't have a narrative or character to root for, I'm not rooting for Beetlejuice, and I'm not rooting for Lydia, because I don't want Lydia to have her dead mom. Her mom's dead. I want her to get over it. So the show is weird in that we're just watching it and going, all this stuff is going on. It doesn't make sense. And then when it comes to confusion, I've already talked about it. The book is so confusing, and I can't understand the lyrics of the song. So what are we doing here? The change is about saying the name 3 times, only living people. The book can only be opened by this people. It can be burned. He burns the book, but then the book comes back at some point. So I guess, I don't know. The writers, I would love to interview them and say, what were you thinking? I just feel like they're making up rules as it goes along. And it's frustrating because the movie's narrative, I think, is very clear. I appreciate when they don't take the movie exactly and put it on the stage. I appreciate that. But to make it make less sense, what are we doing? So let's wrap this up. Beetlejuice is fun, it's flashy, it's loud. So if you like that, you're gonna love that. It's also incredibly incoherent. The second act book makes no sense. And I think teenagers and fans of Beetlejuice seem to really love it. Kids, I don't know. A lot of these jokes probably will go over their heads, but I don't know. It's up to you, parents. I'd be a little uncomfortable with it. You know, for Halloween, great. I bet it's gonna be sold out on the 31st or right before Halloween. I could see going to this just because it is a Halloween amusement park show, is what it feels like. So go check it out for that. So tickets, they have $45 in-person rush tickets. They have $49 lottery tickets on Broadway Direct. And I bought my ticket on Today Tix for $55 up in the balcony, but the house was not very full. And the ushers were fine with people moving down. They actually work encouraging people in the back of the balcony to move closer. They said, just stay out of the center, stay to the sides. I took this to mean that I could then move down to the mezzanine for the second act. Okay, let's be honest. I may have moved down to the mezzanine for the first act. Guys, don't make the ushers' jobs difficult, okay? I was by myself and I am a ninja. Don't sit in seats that look like they're going to be sold because you're gonna make the usher's job really hard. Don't sit in seats where it's obvious that that seat is not sold at all and no one should be sitting there. You gotta find the happy medium. You gotta find the seat that's kind of close to where the group of people are clumped, but not right next to them, and not on the aisle seat that's right, obviously, like that's probably sold and the person's just late, okay? All right, don't ruin this for all of us. You can only do this on certain shows. Beetlejuice is one of them. So, if you're a teenager or have teenagers in your life, send them to Beetlejuice. And if you're not a teenager, let me know if you were able to channel your inner teenager and enjoy Beetlejuice, 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 the musical, the musical, the musical. All right, see you at the next one.
Don't wanna drift away, wanna stay inside the play. Keep me engaged, keep me amused with what's in front of me. 'Cause I don't want